Asian cinema is on the rise. Have you guys seen the Netflix miniseries Beef? I saw it. I loved it. It's great. And let's talk about it. You're watching Brand Video Pro, and I'm your host, Kenim O. And guys, before I get into this, I'm looking for 50 likes on this video. 50 likes. If I get 50 likes on this video, I'll make this documentary that I'm talking about on the business of entertainment. You guys can leave a comment down below. Let me know what subject matter you want me to cover. Do you want me to make a documentary about Afro beats? I have a lot of stuff. Do you want me to make a documentary about Nollywood? I have a lot of interviews I've done with Nollywood actors about the business. Do you want me to make a documentary about that? Do you want me to make a documentary about a specific artist? I know you guys love my Beyonce content. You love my Kim Kardashian content, Rihanna content. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you want me to cover this documentary on. But before I can even make this documentary, this video needs to get 50 likes. I'm your host, Kenim O. You're watching Brand Video Pro. Let's get into the video. Beef. This series is great. I'll just talk about all the stuff I loved about it. First of all, I'm loving this Asian cinema wave that's going on in the West. Korean dramas, K-dramas. I absolutely love K-dramas. I love how K-dramas have infiltrated or gone global. I really enjoy them, and I love the perspective, how different the perspective is to Western dramas. And then as far as like Korean, or sorry, not even Korean, but Asian American cinema and the rise of it, we think about Everything Everywhere All at Once. But guys, if you guys know this YouTube channel called Funghwa, I've been watching them since like 2010. Or maybe 2011, right? Funghwa, and they've just kind of, I think if anything, they kind of, let me see, Funghwa. Yeah, it's Funghwa, right? Or Wufong? Fung Woo. What? No, I don't sound legit. Anyway, I'll put a picture up if I find it. But there's this YouTube channel that I've been watching since like 2010, and it was just Asian American only. And it kind of like, if anything, it served as proof of concept, proof of market value, that the Asian community is big and thriving in America. And more so, not just Asian community wants to watch their stuff, but people want to watch their stuff. So I've been watching that since 2010. I've been paying attention to it since 2010. So it's interesting to me how it took this long for like the mainstream media to catch on to the fact that Asian American cinema is incredible. So, but yeah, this series it has the influence of K-dramas and just like movies from the East, but it also has a very American vibe to it, and I love it. Just the essence of it, the flow of it, the editing, the acting, the humor, just a great show altogether. And what I really did enjoy about the show, the concept of the show, is that it's really about learning to let things go. And it's so interesting because it has a very, in my view, a Buddhist or sort of East Asian Buddhist kind of like way of telling a story in a sort of a karmatic flow or karma flow. And it almost also reminiscent of Woody Allen and the way that he sort of like showcases karma in his stories, or showcases the flow of life or the realities of life. This kind of did that also in a very interesting way. But I think with this, you could tell that Woody Allen, all these like American filmmakers, they have always been inspired by films from the East, downright even copying screenshots from like anime, literally scenes. They've copied scenes from anime. They don't even like innovate. It's crazy. But now we're getting the real authentic thing, with an American filter in a way. So yeah, this Buddhist sort of like perspective, or even a yin yang type of perspective of like, everything sort of comes around. So what is the story about? It's about these two people that have this episode of road rage that could have just they could have just let it go, but they don't let it go. And they start acting a fool, just trying to seek revenge. And you guys might be familiar with the saying, if you're going to seek revenge, dig two graves, one for you and one for the other person. And that saying just kind of encompasses this whole story. You know what? I'm sorry. From here on out, I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler. So yeah, I'm just going to give a spoiler at this point. So how so? I even think about the end of the movie where they, and okay, you know what? I'm going to have a spoiler, but I'll try and stop and I'll put a section for my spoiler. And I'll tell you guys where to continue watching. Just look at the chapters. So here, spoiler. So at the end of the movie, right? They lie in the hospital bed together, and he's dying, and she can. Oh, so many layers. He's dying, and she lies on him, and it's almost like they're being buried together. Even when they were in the woods, or sorry, in the what did you call it? Hiking places, the woods. Let's call it the woods. When they were in the woods, just like sitting, and dying. They thought they were dying, and they even at one point became each other. It was almost like they're soulmates. But there are different types of soulmates. Apparently, they're also negative soulmates. Negative soulmates that both of you are destructive together, and that's exactly what they were. And it was quite poetic and beautiful, but not necessarily about love. And they never like really explicitly made it seem as though the two of them would end up together, but they kind of danced around with that theme. And because of the character that she's shown us to be, she's capable of sleeping with his brother and then still like being with him in the end. But they have this sort of, they're like almost like kindred spirits or twin flames. Maybe that's even the better term. Maybe it's a twin flame, but also a very toxic soulmate, which those exist too, that you should run as far as possible away from. But the whole story stemmed from these two individuals who have road rage and just can't let shit go. And they keep on seeking revenge. And every time they do this, matters get worse for them. It keeps getting worse. But the story is so interesting because it doesn't get worse in predictable ways that you would expect it to get worse. Because actually, the predictable ways that you expect it to get worse actually come resolved in a peaceful way. But they do something else. Some other chain of events happens which causes a bigger catastrophe and keeps them in a continuous loop of seeking revenge against each other. And in this way, the story is told so well. It's so beautifully told. It's so interestingly and intricately told. I loved the character development. I loved the nuances of the character, and I love the idea that the two of them are actually not good people. Most Hollywood films that you watch, it's about good people. Even if a person is doing evil in the world, it's like you're rooting for them because you know like deep down they're doing this evil for a good reason. Somehow Hollywood gets us to sort of side with the protagonist and see the good in them. But in this story, yeah, sure, there were elements of good in them, but deep down, it was like, I think by the last 2 episodes, I was fed up with them and I actually wanted them to die. So I was really happy when they were in the forest and they were about to die. I was like, finally, just kill them both and we can end it here, because they ruin not only their lives, but everybody around them's lives. And it's so reckless the way that they behave, what they're willing to give up just because they have this episode of road rage. And for me, it's not relatable. I know some people have anger management issues and they can relate with this stuff. I can't relate with this. I'm the person that wants to seek peace first. I'm the person that's going to let shit go. Even if it pisses me off, I'll go home and I'll vent, but I'm going to let it go. I'm not just going to go just in a pursuit of revenge when I have everything to lose. I'm not going to be reckless. And that was so ironic with the two of them. They were this yin and yang. She has accomplished a lot. She has a lot to lose. She has a husband, a daughter. She has a company that's about to be sold for $10 million. But she's willing to risk that all just because of this episode of road rage. And then with him, he's a loser. He hasn't achieved his dreams. He hasn't accomplished what he wanted to accomplish in life. And in a way, as much as they say that when you have nothing to lose, the irony is with him, or the complexity of that is the fact that even when you have nothing, you also are in a state of despair also, or a state of hopelessness, because you don't have anywhere to go if you don't change your mindset. And with him, he was in this like tireless pursuit, knowing that he's a loser. He prevented his brother from going to college because he threw away his college application, because he, in fact, when he admitted that in the end, and we knew that he's really a bad person because he was selfish, and he kind of kept his brother down, kept his brother a baby, which he also used against his brother and insulted his brother. But there were all these elements of him that, even though we know like there's a goodness in him, he's a loser, and he's a piece of shit too. And both of them are just pieces of shit with unresolved issues. With him, I don't quite know what his issue is. We know that when he grew up, he was bullied. We know that I guess he perceived himself as a loser, but the only thing that he had was that he was his brother's role model. And in a way, it was as though he wanted to keep his brother down so that he could always still be his brother's role model. That was the only person that he could feel like he was above. And it was so powerful in that moment when his cousin slapped him. If you guys remember the scene, when his cousin slapped him after he caused his cousin to go back to get under house arrest, and he comes back and he blames, or it was after like the Vegas trip, and then he blames the woman, what's her name, Amy, for them getting in trouble and all the stuff that they stole being seized by the police. And his cousin slapped him in front of those two guys. I don't know, because Asians, especially like Koreans and Chinese, they're very similar to Nigerians, right? In terms of, we don't, respect is so important, and seniority is so important. Respect is so important as amongst our peers. So the way that he looked at his cousin when his cousin slapped him in the face, just, you could see that it's like it was just an embodiment of his core wound. And his core wound is the fact that nobody respects him. Nobody, even his brother, the only person that he kept down to ensure that his brother would respect him, he doesn't even respect him, to the effect that his cousin slaps him in front of all these people. The disrespect. I felt that when he slapped him. I actually paused. I had something to go, and all I could think about was like, this motherfucker slap. He slapped him, and not just a slap, just a bitch slap. Opened his hands, and it was hard in front of his boys. Put him in his place. That I didn't even see him in that place until then. And the way he looked at his cousin, you could tell that there was an element of resentment that built, and that's probably why he ended up ratting his cousin out, taking all his cousin's money, which was rightfully his in the first place. But he's the one that fucked it up because he couldn't let shit go. Took all his cousin's money and used it, and went to, build his parents' house and all that stuff. And it was so funny when, at the end of it all, he kind of just proved that he really is a loser because he wired his parents' home the wrong way. He caused that house to burn down. So it was almost like he got this opportunity. He keeps getting these opportunities. He keeps fucking them up. And that's why he sort of confirms to himself that he really is a loser. So that's his story. And it's so interesting because the way they show what a loser is in an unsuccessful setting, or what we deem as unsuccessful in the world, but they also show what a loser is in a successful element, which is what Amy was. Amy was in this, she has this plant company. She's been hustling since she was a kid. I think she was like stealing stuff when she was a kid. She wasn't a good person as a kid. And you could tell that, her parents neglected her as a child. her parents just, they don't talk about stuff. They're, you know, those people that, I don't know, like a lot of Nigerians, they're not truthful, and they fester in the bullshit and the lies. And I guess maybe, I don't know if that's a similar thing in Asian society. But there's this pressure to keep up with the Joneses or keep up with societal standards, that people are willing to suppress and lie and ignore things, you know. And so like things fester in, you know, and that's kind of like the upbringing that she had in her household. She confronts her mom and says, why are you always lying? Why can't we be truthful? Why can't we have an honest conversation? And it's like this trajectory that she's had all her life, just suppressing her truth. Even when she's in therapy, she struggles to be truthful to her therapist, which is like, it was so crazy to me, because I remember my first therapy session, and my therapist told me that this session, and I'm paying for this session, it's not cheap, right? My therapist tells me, look, this session is going to be as good as you allow it to be. As much as you're able to open up to me is how much I'll be able to help you. And it's so crazy to me. So she's doing all these sessions with her husband, but they're not productive because she's there lying to her therapist, even to the effect that when she's sitting one-on-one with her therapist, she still lies to her therapist. She still refuses to open up because she's been festering in this bullshit and this lie. And it stems from, I can't remember who told her this in the story. If you tell them the truth, they're not going to like you and they're not going to stay. Somebody told her that. I don't know if it was her mom, but someone told her that. And it's so ironic because that came true in her life. When she told her husband who she was, he left her. And the funny thing about it is, it's everything. Life is really about perspective. She saw that as, well, that was true. I am a loser. But if anything, I think she should see it as, I think my therapist, if I was in her shoes, my therapist would tell me that no, like, your value does not stem from your husband. Your value stems from you. And it's okay to be truthful to yourself. It's okay to be honest with yourself. And that you losing your husband was a good thing because it allowed you to shed the bullshit. He's part of the bullshit. You even said that you only married him because you felt like he's such a great guy, and you're not a great person. She knows, she has this self-awareness. So there is a layer of truth to her. She knows her truth, but she's suppressing it. Even she told her husband, I married you because you're a good person. And it made her feel like she had proximity to goodness, because deep down she feels like she's a bad person. Now here's where the story gets interesting. When it comes to her and this guy, I can't remember what his name is, the main guy, they were able to disclose each other's truths to each other. And they were able to feel seen and understood and not judged. It was almost like the first time she ever got like a refuge in another person, or felt seen in another person who could accept that we're both shitty people. First of all, how we met each other is by this like ridiculous road rage. So we both know that we're shitty people, but we're going to accept each other's truth. And it was like she found her home in him. And it was like, so when they were, in the end, when she cuddles up with, it was okay, even before that. So when both of them are telling each other's stories, and all of a sudden they become the same person and they're both talking, then all of a sudden they separate and he becomes her and she becomes him. When two become one, these people are soulmates. And I wouldn't even go as far to say it's a romantic soulmate. I know a lot of people will think about it like that, but they never showed us that they were romantically together. So I don't see it as romantic. I think it was a platonic thing. And it was the first time she really found her true match. She really found a home in somebody else, something that she could never achieve from her husband, because she was always lying to herself, because she was always suppressing it in herself. But finally, the two of them found each other, connected by trying to kill each other. Both of them ruined each other's lives. And in the end, they come together in this magical way and find refuge and solidarity and comfort and peace. So it was interesting in the end when he's in the hospital bed and he's dying and she goes in there and sleeps on top of him in the bed. It's like, take me with you. We're in this together. And it will be interesting to see. I know the story ended there, but it would be interesting to see, like, what is next? What is next? Are they going to come together in love? Are they going to come together in friendship? And so another element that was interesting is how both of them got along with each other's families superficially. And that's also this like foreshadowing, but also not just foreshadowing, but also this showcasing that there's a level of home in each other and familiarity in each other. The way that she got on with his brother, just very peacefully, because, you know, and he got on with her husband as friends very peacefully. It just kind of, it showed how much the two of them, like, it's almost like, you know, when there's a marriage, you don't just marry your husband, but you marry his family. And in a way, it's like the two of them, there's these soulmates. And so everybody that's connected to them has a connection with them in a way, in that same way. So that was also very magical too. Those are the main things I would say about the story. Very interesting story. Yin yang presence, these soulmates that hate each other, the negative type of soulmate. Who knows if it means that the story continues with him dying, or maybe he wakes up and they both like live together. But it's so crazy. I think the main takeaway for me, I guess, let me just conclude with like lessons from the story, is learn to let shit go. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. Like, I just got so irritated with them because they clearly have this anger management issue that both of them need serious therapy. They just can't let shit go. Even if when they try to let shit go, they end up fucking it up by talking. Like he found out, you know, that like he's the problem for the house. He's the one that burnt the house down. And then he instigates his brother. He gossips, and then his brother goes and outs her and says, I slept with your wife. You know, so it's almost like, just let shit go. Let it go. It's not worth it. That's the biggest takeaway from me. And the other big takeaway is don't gossip. Stop gossiping. You know, imagine if like people just shut their mouths. So much destruction that happened. For me, that's the part that really upset me. I think what I was really upset when I predicted it. I said, if they keep doing this, somebody's gonna die. And then the white woman died. I was so pissed the way the white woman died because it was so unnecessary. Like that was the first person that died, and I was like, what the hell? Like I was so pissed. And then his brother didn't die. I thought his brother died. I guess the white woman's the only one that died, but she also lost her daughter and she lost her husband. Let's talk about that for a second. Like, that's the part to me that was so annoying. You were really willing to do all this crazy stuff when you know that you have a husband and a daughter. You have a child in this world. Wouldn't you want to protect your child? Wouldn't you want to not put your child's life at risk? Remember when he was about to burn her car? These people are not good people, for sure. When people tell you who they are, believe them. They're not good people. But he was about to burn her car with her child in the car. And then he saw the child. He was like, oh, no, whoops. Right? It was reckless. You know you have a child in this world. Why would you behave like a reckless person? Because you're living in a lie. And it's just like, the story is so realistic. It's so truthful because so many people are walking around and they're lying to themselves and they're living a lie. And this is how it affects them. They overreact based on something they do that you just let go. So anyone that's watching this, I would just advise, if this rang true to you, if you see yourself in Amy and I can't remember the other guy's name, the protagonist male's name. If you see yourself in them, I would say, you know, learn to let things go. If you have issues letting things go to therapy, go to psychotherapy, and just learn to, you know, subconsciously. I think in psychotherapy, they go through this process of like unlocking your subconscious and pulling out some of your childhood wounds to heal it. both of them were bleeding out. Like, stories are always about characters bleeding out, their core wounds bleeding out, and core wounds are typically things that people have from childhood. With him, like I said, it was feeling like a failure and a loser all his life, and just like he made that a reality by way of self-sabotage. And so it's almost like the ego wants to prove it to you all the time that you're a loser, by self-sabotage. And with her, it was like she was lying to herself and suppressing her truth all her life, convincing herself that she's a terrible and bad person all her life, faking it by aligning herself with someone that she felt was good so she could have some proximity to goodness, when in reality all she had to do was just be truthful and live in her truth, and not like live this lie, this fake facade of success. It was so funny to me when the first signs of that to me, that she was like kind of a shitty person, is like the way that she got really cozy with the white lady just to sort of, and then all of a sudden she has a blonde wig. All of a sudden she's going on stage and lying and saying, yes, you can have it all. But she knows that's bullshit. She knows that she has depression. She knows that she's like messed up. So why are you presenting this lie to people? It's really like, to me, it's like a symbolism of what social media is. A lot of people on social media, they're lying, but they're saying stuff that is just not true. So back to, if you're going to go through therapy, I just say go through therapy, work through your issues. Don't lie to yourself. That's the most important thing in life. Don't lie to yourself, because what's the point of lying to yourself in this life? What's the point of living in a lie? You only get one life. Some people believe you get multiple lives, but whatever the case is, you're here right now. You don't know if you're going to come back as a bug or an ant or a rat, so you're here right now. Make the most of this opportunity that you have on this planet, of the consciousness that you have, and don't lie to yourself, because what is the point? Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with my breakdown? Do you disagree? Let me know your thoughts. Break it down for me. Leave a comment down below. I really love making these movie reviews. I want to make more of them. I just feel as though I don't really have the time all the time. And also, they're not always great. They're not really always shows that you can really dissect in this way. Some shows are very simple and basic. And so it's like, what am I really saying? But I found this one very powerful because there are so many layers to it. Netflix did a great... Let me not even get into that. But there are so many layers to it to dissect, and I love to see more stuff like that in cinema. Anyway, 50 likes, guys. Let this video get 50 likes. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above, and I'll see you in the next one. You're watching Brand Video Pro. I'm your host, Kenim O. A peace.